Some remedies involved fire, not just for warmth, but for direct application. Remember the toothworm we talked about? Some believed that the only way to truly get rid of it was to smoke it out. You might be told to hold your mouth over the burning fumes of certain herbs, like henbane seeds, which were known to produce a narcotic smoke. The smoke, it was believed, would drive the worms out, and you might even see tiny black specks fall from your mouth, which were, in reality, just the charred seeds themselves. But to the desperate sufferer, that they were proof of the worm's expulsion. The danger of inhaling toxic fumes or burning your mouth was a risk you were willing to take for relief. The pervasive lack of clean water also played a significant role. Even if you wanted to rinse your mouth thoroughly, the water available was often contaminated, making true cleanliness an elusive goal. You might be drinking and rinsing with the very same water that carries disease, a grim irony in the pursuit of health. The common historical fact that many medieval herbal remedies contained ingredients that did have some medicinal properties, even if their application was misguided, is important. Henbane, for example, contains scopolamine and hyoscyamine, which are potent anticholinergics that can have sedative and analgesic effects. While they wouldn't cure a cavity, they might offer temporary pain relief or induce a state of drowsiness, making the pain less noticeable. It's a testament to the accidental efficacy of some folk remedies, stumbled upon through trial and error over centuries. One particularly obscure detail is the use of mouse droppings as a toothache remedy. It was believed that the small, hard pellets, when ground into a powder and applied to the tooth, could somehow draw out the pain or even kill the toothworm. The thought of putting rodent excrement in your mouth is enough to make you shudder. But in the medieval mind, where the lines between medicine and magic were blurred, such remedies were considered viable. It's a truly disgusting thought, but a vivid illustration of the lengths to which people would go. The common historical fact that medieval people often chewed on various herbs and spices, not just for breath freshening, but also for their perceived medicinal properties, is a testament to their reliance on natural remedies. Cloves, for instance, contain eugenol, a natural analgesic, and chewing on them might have offered temporary relief from a toothache. It's a small comfort, but a comfort nonetheless. In a world devoid of pharmaceutical pain relief, the academic debate continues how much of the perceived effectiveness of these medieval potions and poultices was due to the placebo effect, and how much was due to the actual, albeit often misunderstood, pharmacological properties of the ingredients. Were people genuinely getting better, or were they simply convinced they were due to the power of belief and the desperate desire for relief? It's a complex question that modern science can only speculate upon, as we lack the ability to truly replicate the medieval mindset. Beyond the physical remedies, there's the psychological toll, the constant pain, the ineffective treatments, the bizarre rituals. It all wears you down. You become desperate, willing to try anything, however outlandish. You might even start to believe in the toothworm, in the curses, in the power of the amulets. Because what else is there? The scientific understanding that could explain your suffering and offer a true cure is centuries away. For now, you are left with the strange, often horrifying world of medieval folk medicine. The smell of a medieval crowd, a blend of unwashed bodies, animal waste, and general grime, would have been overwhelming. And within that olfactory assault, the distinct aroma of unbrushed, decaying teeth would have been a common, if unpleasant, component. You'd simply grow accustomed to it, a constant background hum of human existence. You might hear tales of even stranger remedies, whispered in hushed tones. Some believe that if you found a tooth that had fallen out of a horse's mouth, and you carried it with you, it would prevent your own teeth from aching, or that rubbing your aching tooth with the blood of a mole would bring relief. These are not just medical practices, they are deeply ingrained cultural beliefs, born from a lack of scientific knowledge and a profound need to explain and alleviate suffering. The common historical fact that medieval people often attributed illnesses to supernatural causes, such as demons, witchcraft, or divine punishment, meant that religious and magical remedies were as common, if not more so, than purely medical ones. The line between physician, priest, and sorcerer was often blurred, and you might seek help from all three, hoping that one of them would finally hold the key to your relief. Your toothache wasn't just a physical ailment, it was a spiritual battle, a test of faith, or a sign of malevolent forces at work. The academic debate still explores the regional differences in medieval oral hygiene practices. Did certain cultures or geographic areas have more advanced or effective methods than others? While evidence is scarce, some scholars suggest that areas with access to specific herbs or minerals might have developed slightly more effective, albeit still rudimentary. Cleaning agents. You might also encounter the use of charms that involved writing specific words or symbols on a piece of paper, then burning it and inhaling the smoke, or even swallowing the ashes. The power of the written word, especially if it was a sacred text or a magical incantation, was believed to be immense. It's a desperate act, consuming burnt paper, but the promise of relief can make you do almost anything. The smell of these remedies is a sensory assault. The pungent odor of herbs, the acrid scent of animal dung, the metallic tang of blood, the faint, disturbing aroma of burnt parchment. It all blends into a unique, unforgettable bouquet of medieval suffering. You close your eyes, trying to block out the unpleasantness, focusing only on the faint hope that this time, this particular potion or poultice will finally bring the elusive peace. As the sun sets, you might perform your nightly ritual, a quick rinse with water, perhaps a chew on a twig, and then the familiar feeling of your tongue exploring the rough, uneven surfaces of your teeth. You know, deep down, that it's not enough. You know that the battle against decay is a losing one, fought with inadequate weapons and a profound lack of understanding. But you persist, because what else can you do? You just hope that tonight, the toothworm, or whatever malevolent force is at play, will grant you a few hours of peaceful, pain-free sleep. The academic debate still ponders the true role of faith healing in medieval dentistry. How much of the relief experienced was a genuine physiological response to the herbal compounds? And how much was purely psychosomatic, a result of the patient's belief in the remedy and the healer? It's a difficult question to answer, as the power of the mind over the body is a complex phenomenon, even in modern times. You might even try a remedy involving a specific type of wood. Some believe that if you found a piece of wood that had been struck by lightning, and you chewed on it, the power of the lightning would transfer to your tooth, driving out the pain. It's a truly desperate idea, but in a world where lightning was seen as a divine force, it made a strange kind of sense. You're basically trying to zap your toothache away. You've endured the persistent aches, the bizarre remedies, and even the brutal ministrations of the barber surgeon. You've attempted rudimentary hygiene, but there's a silent, relentless enemy constantly ravaging your teeth, your very diet. In the medieval world, what you ate was not just sustenance, it was a profound contributor to most dental woes. A slow, continuous assault on your overall oral health. And as the sun sets, casting long shadows across your humble dwelling, you apply yet another poultice, this one made from a mixture of ground snails and vinegar. The slimy, cold sensation against your cheek is repulsive, but you endure it, your eyes fixed on the distant stars, hoping that somewhere, somehow, a true cure exists. For now, you are left with a strange, often horrifying, world of medieval potions, prayers, and painful poultices, a testament to the enduring human spirit in the face of unimaginable suffering. You just want to sleep, to escape the relentless throb, even for a few precious hours. The pain, a relentless, gnawing beast, has driven you to the brink. The wise woman's charms have faded, the physician's humors remain stubbornly unbalanced, and your prayers, it seems, have gone unanswered. There is only one option left. A terrifying, yet often unavoidable last resort, the barber surgeon. You've seen their signs, a pole striped with red and white, symbolizing blood and bandages, hanging outside their shops in the bustling town square. You've heard the screams that sometimes emanate from within, sharp, guttural cries that send shivers down your spine. But desperation, my friend, is a powerful motivator, and your toothache has reached a point where any potential relief, no matter how brutal, is preferable to continued agony. Imagine your typical day. Your staple meal revolves around grains, primarily coarse bread, ground by stone mills. Tiny particles of millstone grit often found their way into the flour, creating an abrasive texture that literally wore down your tooth enamel with every bite. You could feel the small, gritty particles between your teeth, as if you were chewing on sand. These particles didn't just abrade, they also easily lodged in crevices and cavities, providing ideal breeding grounds for bacteria. It's like trying to polish your teeth with sandpaper. You're certainly cleaning, but you're also destroying them. You approach the barber surgeon's establishment with a heavy heart and a pounding pulse. The shop itself is a curious blend of a barber's parlor and a rudimentary operating theater. There are basins for shaving, combs, and scissors, but also an array of unsettling tools laid out on a rough wooden table gleaming formidable pliers, sharp knives, and various hooks and probes. The air is thick with the scent of stale blood, cheap spirits, and something vaguely metallic. It's not the sterile environment you might imagine in a modern clinic. It's a chaotic, often unsanitary, workspace where cleanliness is a luxury rarely afforded. The barber surgeon himself is a man of many talents. A common historical fact of the medieval era, he's not just a hair cutter, he's also a bloodletter, a wound dresser, a bone setter, and, most relevant to your current predicament, a tooth puller. He's often a burly individual with strong hands and a no-nonsense demeanor, accustomed to dealing with pain and gore. He might have served an apprenticeship, learning his trade through observation and grim practice, rather than formal education. He greets you with a gruff nod, his eyes quickly assessing your pale, sweat-beaded face. He knows that look. He sees it every day. Meat, if you were fortunate enough to have it, was often dried, salted, or tough fresh cuts that were thoroughly cooked. It was fibrous and difficult to chew, requiring immense biting force, putting significant strain on your teeth and jaw. You'd clench, using all your might to tear through each sinewy piece, and with every effort, you'd feel an uncomfortable pressure radiating through your jaw. Small fragments of meat would also easily get stuck, especially in any existing cavities or gaps from missing teeth. It was a high-intensity workout for your jaw, but a torment for your teeth. He doesn't ask about your humors or your recent diet. He goes straight to the source of the problem. Which one? He grunts, gesturing towards your mouth. You point a trembling finger to the offending molar, the one that feels like a hot nail driven into your jaw. He leans in, his breath a mixture of ale and something vaguely antiseptic, and peers into your mouth. There's no gentle probing, no careful examination. He's looking for the easiest target, the tooth that's most obviously decayed or loose, the one he can extract with the least amount of fuss, and, hopefully, the least amount of resistance from you. The preparation is minimal, to say the least. There's no local anesthetic, no numbing injection. The most you might get is a swig of strong ale or wine, offered more as a sedative to dull your senses than as a true painkiller. You gulp it down, the burning liquid doing little to assuage the fear that coils in your stomach. He might instruct you to sit on a low stool or even lie on a rough bench, positioning your head to give him the best leverage. You grip the edges of the furniture, your knuckles white, bracing yourself for the inevitable. It's like preparing for a wrestling match where you know you're going to lose badly. Sugar, as we know it today, was a luxury. But honey, dried fruits, and seasonal fresh fruits when available were primary sources of sweetness. Honey, in particular, was incredibly sticky, clinging to your teeth and in between them, providing a veritable feast for cavity-causing bacteria. You could feel the sweet, viscous film coating your teeth after a meal, an unpleasant sensation you couldn't easily remove. These natural sugars, while not refined, were no less destructive to your enamel. It's like you're inviting a tiny army of bacteria to throw a party in your mouth. The barber surgeon selects his weapon of choice, a pair of formidable dental forceps, often referred to as pelicans or tooth keys due to their shape. These are not delicate instruments. They are heavy, unrefined tools designed for brute force. You might wipe them on a rag, perhaps clean, perhaps not, before bringing them towards your open mouth. The glint of the metal, the sheer size of the instrument, sends a fresh wave of terror through you. You can almost feel the cold steel against your aching gum even before it touches. He positions the forceps around your tooth, his strong fingers clamping down with surprising force. You feel the immense pressure, the crushing grip on your molar. Then comes the twisting, the wrenching, a sensation of pure, unadulterated agony as he attempts to dislodge the tooth from its socket. You might cry out, a strangled sound that's swallowed by the din of the street outside. Your body tenses, every muscle straining against the pain. It's not a quick, clean pull, it's a brutal battle. a tug of war between his strength and your tooth's stubborn roots. A common historical fact is that the medieval diet was severely deficient in many vitamins and minerals crucial for dental health. Fresh vegetables and fruits were seasonal luxuries, not year-round staples. The diet, heavily reliant on grains and meat, lacked sufficient vitamin C, leading to scurvy, which causes bleeding gums and tooth loss, and adequate vitamin D and calcium, essential for strong bones and teeth. This nutritional deficiency meant that teeth were inherently weaker, more prone to decay, and more susceptible to fracturing. You might feel your gums tender and prone to bleeding when you chewed, a clear sign of underlying nutritional issues. Sometimes, the tooth resists. It might be deeply rooted, or the bone around it might be particularly dense. The barber surgeon might grunt with effort, his brow furrowed in concentration. He might try different angles, different grips, each attempt sending fresh waves of searing pain through your jaw. You feel a tearing sensation, a sickening crunch, and then, finally, a pop. The tooth is out. The relief, when it comes, is immediate and overwhelming. A sudden cessation of the agonizing pressure, replaced by a dull ache and the metallic taste of blood. A particularly obscure detail is the use of a toothworm extractor, a small, pointed instrument that some barber surgeons would use. Not to pull the tooth, but to supposedly dig out the toothworm from the cavity. Even after the tooth was extracted, or if the patient refused extraction, some would claim to have removed the worm, showing the patient a tiny black speck, often a piece of charred henbane seed, or a bit of debris as proof. This practice highlights the enduring power of the toothworm belief, even among those who performed more practical, albeit brutal, procedures. It's like showing someone a piece of lint and telling them it's the monster under their bed. You're just trying to make them feel better, even if it's a lie. One particularly obscure detail is the use of certain spices and herbs in medieval cuisine that, while adding flavor, could inadvertently contribute to dental problems. Some spices were quite acidic, potentially contributing to enamel erosion, or the practice of chewing on raw. Fibrous herbs for digestion or breath freshening could cause mechanical abrasion to the teeth. You might chew on a pungent sprig of an herb, feeling its bitter, astringent taste spread through your mouth, unaware that it was also slowly wearing down your enamel. It's like you're trying to help, but accidentally causing more trouble. The academic debate still exists among historians of medicine. How often did medieval tooth extractions result in severe complications, such as jaw fractures, uncontrolled bleeding, or life-threatening infections, versus relatively clean, albeit painful, removals? While anecdotal evidence suggests high rates of complications, the exact statistics are difficult to ascertain due to limited records. It's a grim area of study, trying to quantify the suffering of the past. After the extraction, the barber surgeon might offer minimal aftercare. He might instruct you to bite down on a piece of cloth to staunch the bleeding, or to rinse your mouth with a bit of wine or vinegar, which, while offering some temporary cleansing, would do little to prevent infection. There are no stitches, no antibiotics, no instructions for proper wound care. You're simply sent on your way, a gaping hole in your mouth, a dull ache where a searing pain once resided, and the very real risk of complications setting in. Historians still debate whether the increase in dental problems in certain medieval periods was primarily due to changes in grain milling techniques, making flour coarser and containing more grit, or shifts in dietary habits, increased consumption of honey and other sugars as they became more accessible. Or was it a complex interplay of both, combined with poor hygiene, that created a perfect storm for oral health? This debate continues. As scholars analyze skeletal remains and historical records, the common historical fact that infections were a leading cause of death in the medieval period cannot be overstated, especially after invasive procedures like tooth extraction. Without understanding germ theory, the barber surgeon's tools were rarely sterilized, and the open wound in your mouth was a perfect entry point for bacteria. You might develop a fever, your face might swell, and the dull ache could return with a vengeance, escalating into a full-blown, life-threatening infection. The initial relief of the extraction could quickly turn into a new, even more terrifying, battle for survival. You stumble out of the shop, your hand pressed to your bleeding mouth, the taste of iron strong on your tongue. The world seems a little brighter, a little less oppressive, now that the constant throb is gone. But the fear of infection, the knowledge that this temporary relief might come at a far greater cost, lingers. You try to avoid thinking about it, focusing instead on the blessed absence of that agonizing pressure. Water quality was also a significant issue. You didn't have purified, fluoridated water like today. Water was often drawn from rivers, streams, or wells, and could contain numerous impurities and bacteria. Even when you rinsed your mouth with water, you could potentially be introducing new pathogens rather than washing them away. Furthermore, the lack of natural fluoride in the water supply was a crucial factor. Fluoride strengthens enamel and helps resist decay, but it was entirely absent from your water source. It's an uphill battle when even the water you use to clean can be part of the problem. Sometimes, the barber surgeon would attempt to extract a tooth that wasn't actually the source of the pain, or would break the tooth during the extraction, leaving roots embedded in the jaw. This would lead to continued agony, or even worse, a deep-seated infection that was even harder to treat. The lack of precise diagnostic tools meant that these procedures were often a shot in the dark, a desperate gamble for both the patient and the practitioner. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack, blindfolded, with a sledgehammer. You might hit something, but it's probably not the needle. The barber surgeon's reputation was often built on his speed and strength, rather than his finesse. A quick extraction, even if brutal, was often preferred to a prolonged, agonizing struggle. The less time you spent in his chair, the better. His skill was measured not by his gentleness, but by his ability to get the job done, swiftly and decisively, even if it meant a broken jaw or a shattered tooth. Hard and fibrous foods didn't just cause wear, they could also lead to fractured teeth, especially those already weakened by decay. You might be chewing on a particularly tough piece of dried bread, and suddenly, a sickening crack echoes in your mouth. A sharp pain flares, and you know that a piece of your tooth has irrevocably broken off. These fractured pieces could be jagged, causing further injury to your tongue and gums, opening pathways for infection. It was a common occurrence, an unavoidable part of medieval life. You might hear a story about a barber surgeon who, in a moment of extreme desperation, tried to extract a tooth by tying a string around it and attaching the other end to a door, then slamming the door shut. While this might sound like a cartoon gag, variations of this method were indeed attempted, highlighting the crude and often dangerous approaches to tooth extraction. It's a testament to the sheer lack of proper training and the reliance on brute force over surgical precision. I mean, talk about a DIY dentist. The academic debate still questions the social status and training of medieval barber surgeons. Were they considered respected professionals, or were they on the fringes of society, often viewed with suspicion due to the messy and painful nature of their work? Their role was undeniably crucial, filling a gap left by the more academically inclined physicians. But their standing in the social hierarchy remains a subject of nuanced historical interpretation. Moreover, food preservation methods were rudimentary. Meats were heavily salted, smoked, or dried. Vegetables and fruits were pickled or dried. While essential for preventing starvation, these methods altered the texture and nutritional content of the food. Salted foods, for instance, could lead to dry mouth. Reducing saliva flow, a crucial factor in washing away bacteria and neutralizing acids. You might feel your mouth parched, an uncomfortable sensation that lingered after meals. The pain of the extraction itself was often so overwhelming that it could cause patients to faint, or even go into shock. The barber surgeon would be accustomed to this, perhaps splashing water on your face or offering a strong smelling salt to revive you. Your body's natural response to such extreme trauma was simply to shut down, offering a brief, albeit involuntary, escape from the agony. And what about the sound? The sickening crack of bone, the tearing of flesh, the guttural cries of the patient. These were the grim symphony of the medieval barber surgeon's shop. You try to block it out, to focus on your breathing, but the sounds are etched into your memory, a chilling reminder of the brutal reality of medieval dental care. It's a sound that haunts your nightmares, long after the physical pain has subsided. Remember those times you've eaten a really tough piece of cheese, or some particularly hard nuts? You feel your teeth working overtime. Now imagine that on a regular basis, with even coarser and less processed foods. The constant pressure on your teeth and jaw not only caused wear but could also lead to temporomandibular joint TMJ issues, causing pain and difficulty in chewing and opening your mouth. You might feel your jaw aching, even throbbing, after a long meal. The common historical fact that medieval people had a much higher pain tolerance than modern individuals is often cited. But it's more accurate to say they had a much higher pain endurance. They simply had no other choice. They lived in a world where pain was an inescapable part of life, and the ability to withstand it was a sign of strength and resilience. There was no expectation of comfort, only the hope of survival. You might see other patients waiting their turn, their faces pale and drawn, their eyes wide with fear. They watch your ordeal, their own anxieties mounting, knowing that their turn is next. There's a shared sense of dread, a silent camaraderie among those who are about to face the barber surgeon's instruments. It's a grim waiting room, filled with the unspoken fear of what's to come. Another obscure detail is the use of various tooth powders made from things like crushed coral or even ground brick. While they had some abrasive qualities to remove surface stains, they were incredibly damaging to the enamel. Rubbing these coarse particles onto your teeth daily would grind away the protective outer layer, making your teeth even more susceptible to decay and sensitivity. You might find your teeth looking a bit cleaner, but at the cost of their gradual destruction. It's like trying to polish a jewel with a rock. You're making it shiny, but you're also ruining it. The smell of blood, fresh and metallic, lingers in your nostrils. It's a smell you won't soon forget. A visceral reminder of the violence that just occurred in your mouth. You might try to rinse it away, but the taste and smell persist, a constant companion to the dull ache that has replaced the searing pain. The academic debate still explores the regional variations in medieval dental practices. Did barber surgeons in one part of Europe use different tools or techniques than those in another? Were certain remedies more prevalent in some areas than others? The fragmented nature of historical records makes it challenging to draw definitive conclusions. But evidence suggests a rich tapestry of localized practices, each with its own unique blend of brutality and desperation. Historians still debate whether the lack of protein and fat in the diet of the lower classes affected their dental health differently than that of the nobility who might have had access to more meats and richer foods. While the nobility might have had a more varied diet, they also often consumed more sugars, honey, pastries, which presented their own set of dental problems. Who, if anyone, had healthier teeth in medieval society remains an open question. As you walk away, your jaw throbbing, you can't help but feel a strange mix of relief and lingering dread. The tooth is gone. The immediate agony has subsided, but the memory of the experience is etched into your mind. You know that if another tooth decides to rebel, you'll have to face the barber surgeon again, and the thought alone is enough to make you wince. For now, you are simply grateful for the temporary peace, a fragile truce in the ongoing war against medieval dental pain. You just pray it lasts. You've survived the barber surgeon, a grim rite of passage that leaves you with a gaping hole and a newfound appreciation for the simple act of chewing without searing pain. But the absence of a tooth, especially a prominent one, presents a new set of challenges in medieval society. It affects your speech, your ability to eat certain foods, and perhaps even your social standing. In a world where appearances, however rough-hewn, still mattered, a missing tooth was a visible mark of hardship. And so the desperate attempts to fix what was lost begin, leading to some truly horrifying and often ineffective methods of early dental repair and replacement. The absence of naturally cleansing foods was also a problem. Today, we have apples, carrots, and other crunchy vegetables that naturally help clean our teeth as we chew. In the medieval world, these were less common, or cooked to such a degree that they lost their mechanical cleansing ability. You didn't have these natural toothbrushes to help dislodge food debris and plaque. You might first try to ignore the void, to adapt your chewing to the other side of your mouth, to learn to speak around the new whistling sound that escapes when you try to pronounce certain words. But the tongue, ever curious, constantly seeks out the empty space, a constant reminder of your loss, and the food. Oh, the food bits and pieces lodge in the empty socket, causing irritation and, inevitably, more pain. It's like trying to eat soup with a fork. You can do it, but it's a messy, frustrating process. The simplest, and perhaps most common, fix for a missing tooth is simply to do nothing. To live with the gap, to accept the altered appearance, and to adapt? For many, especially the poor, this is the only realistic option. They simply cannot afford the services of even the most rudimentary dental practitioners, nor do they have access to the materials needed for any form of replacement. You see many such individuals in the marketplace, their smiles revealing a landscape of missing molars and incisors, a testament to a lifetime of dental neglect and brutal extractions. It's a silent badge of honor, or perhaps just a silent badge of poverty, and as teeth began to decay, they became perfect traps for food. The tiny cavities would hold onto every morsel you ate, from breadcrumbs to meat fibers. The trapped food would decompose, creating a perfectly acidic environment for bacteria to thrive even more, accelerating the decay and leading to foul odors. You could feel a persistent discomfort, a sour taste in your mouth that you couldn't get rid of. But for those with a bit more means or a greater sense of vanity, the search for a replacement begins. The idea of filling a cavity, for instance, is rudimentary at best. If you were lucky enough to have a barber surgeon or a skilled artisan who even attempted such a thing, the materials were far from ideal. You might have a cavity packed with a mixture of wax, herbs, or even ground-up minerals. The goal wasn't to create a durable, long-lasting seal, but simply to fill the hole, to prevent food from lodging there, and perhaps to offer a temporary respite from sensitivity. The filling would often fall out within days or weeks, leaving you back where you started, or even worse off if the material caused further irritation. It's like trying to plug a leaky boat with a piece of cheese. It might work for a minute, but you're still going to sink. A common historical fact is that some early attempts at dental fillings involved using soft metals like lead or tin. While these metals could be molded into the cavity, they were often poorly fitted, lacked durability, and could even be toxic over time. You might feel the soft, dull metal against your tongue, a strange sensation compared to your natural tooth. The hope was that it would protect the sensitive nerve, but the reality was often a temporary fix that quickly failed, leaving the tooth even more vulnerable to decay. The lack of understanding about the importance of saliva also contributed to the problem. Saliva plays a crucial role in washing away food, neutralizing acids, and providing minerals that help remineralize enamel. A dry, low-water diet and nutritional deficiencies could lead to reduced saliva production, leaving your mouth even more vulnerable to bacterial attack. You might feel your mouth dry, an uncomfortable sensation you couldn't do much about. One particularly obscure detail involves the practice of transplanting teeth from one person to another. This was a truly macabre and desperate measure, usually attempted by the wealthy. If you had a missing front tooth, you might pay a poor person, or even a servant, to have one of their healthy teeth extracted and then implanted into your empty socket. The procedure was excruciating for both parties, and the success rate was abysmally low. Without understanding tissue rejection or sterilization, the transplanted tooth would almost always fail, leading to severe infection, excruciating pain, and ultimately the loss of both the transplanted tooth and often the surrounding bone. Imagine the horror of having a tooth pulled, only for it to be shoved into someone else's bleeding gum. It's a truly medieval horror story. The academic debate still rages among bioarchaeologists and dental historians. How prevalent were these early attempts at dental prosthetics and fillings? And what was their true impact on the overall health and longevity of medieval populations? While evidence of some attempts exists in archaeological records, the sheer rarity of successful long-term solutions suggests that these fixes were more often failures, leading to further complications rather than genuine improvements in oral health. It's a grim puzzle trying to piece together the dental woes of the past from fragmented remains. A common historical fact is that the practice of chewing on various plant-based stimulants, like betel nut in some medieval cultures, while potentially having some antiseptic properties, often led to severe tooth abrasion and staining. You might see individuals with blackened or reddish teeth from this habit, a clear sign of the destructive nature of these substances on oral health. While it might have offered temporary pleasure or ritualistic significance, in the long run, it ravaged their teeth. For those who couldn't afford or endure a tooth transplant, or whose teeth were too far gone for a simple filling, there were even cruder attempts at prosthetics. You might see a wealthy individual with a tooth carved from animal bone, or even from another human tooth perhaps acquired from a battlefield or a grave. This artificial tooth would be crudely shaped and then, in some cases, tied to existing teeth with silk threads or metal wires. The stability was minimal, the hygiene impossible, and the discomfort immense. It's like trying to build a bridge out of spaghetti and hoping it holds up. The academic debate still rages amongst medical historians. How much did the adherence to humoral theory genuinely impede the development of more effective medical practices, particularly in areas like dentistry, versus how much did it provide a necessary, albeit flawed, framework for understanding disease in an era without germ theory or advanced anatomical knowledge? Was it a rigid dogma that stifled innovation, or a logical progression of thought given the available tools and observations? It's a complex question, and with arguments for both sides. As scholars sift through ancient texts and archaeological evidence to piece together the true impact of this pervasive medical philosophy, and when famine struck, which was not uncommon in the medieval period, your dental health would plummet even further. Severe food shortages weakened your entire body, compromised your immune system, and your teeth were no exception. You might find your teeth loosening, your gums swelling, and already weakened teeth becoming even more prone to falling out. It was a vicious cycle of debilitation, where starvation and oral disease conspired to further break down your body. Hey guys, tonight we're going to embark on a rather uncomfortable journey. A whispered descent into the very real, very raw agony of medieval dental care. Imagine, if you will, a world where the sweet relief of modern dentistry is a distant, impossible dream. A world where a simple cavity could escalate into a life-threatening ordeal, and where the cure was often more terrifying than the disease itself. You're about to step into an era where a toothache wasn't just an annoyance. It was a constant, throbbing companion. A relentless drumbeat against the fragile peace of daily life. And let's be honest, if you were living back then, with the dental fixes we're about to explore, you probably wouldn't survive a week without wanting to pull your own teeth out, or at least wishing someone else would do it for you. Quickly, so before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And as you settle in, tell me, where in the world are you listening from tonight, and what time is it there? Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Remember that pervasive bad breath we talked about? Well, imagine adding decaying food trapped around a poorly fitted bone prosthetic, tied to your remaining teeth with threads that collect every morsel. The smell would be truly formidable, a constant reminder of the artificial, decaying presence in your mouth. You'd be a walking, talking biohazard, albeit a well-intentioned one. Historians still debate whether major plague epidemics, like the Black Death, had an indirect impact on the dental health of survivors. On one hand, the reduction in population might have led to better access to food and resources. On the other hand, the sheer physical and psychological stress of the plague could have weakened immune systems, making survivors more susceptible to oral diseases. It's a complex question. As we try to understand the long-term consequences of historical catastrophes, you find yourself in a bustling medieval town, the air thick with the scent of wood smoke, unwashed bodies, and something vaguely organic. Perhaps a bit of unidentifiable refuse wafting in on the breeze. The sounds are a cacophony of distant church bells, the clatter of horse hooves on cobblestones, and the murmur of 1,000 lives lived in close proximity. But beneath it all, for many, there's a persistent, insidious throb. It starts subtly, perhaps a dull ache after a meal of coarse bread and stew, then escalates, a relentless, sharp jab that radiates through your jaw, up into your temple, and down into your very soul. This, my friend, is the medieval toothache, and it is not a polite, manageable discomfort. It is an all-consuming torment that dictates your every waking moment, and often yet your sleepless nights. You wake with a start. The pain a fiery serpent coiled in your mouth. Your tongue probes the offending molar, finding a jagged, sensitive crater. Food, even the simplest gruel, becomes an enemy. Every bite sends a jolt of agony. Every sip of cold water feels like 1,000 tiny daggers. Forget about enjoying that hard-won piece of dried meat. You're just trying to survive the act of chewing. The concept of pain relief, as you understand it today, simply doesn't exist. There are no ibuprofen, no numbing gels, no gentle dentists with their drills and suction. There is only the pain, and the desperate, often horrifying, attempts to make it cease. You might see children in the village with teeth already showing signs of decay at a young age. A clear indication of the poor diet and hygiene practices that began early in life. Their dental future was already grimly set. A cycle of pain and loss that would repeat through generations. It's a bleak outlook, a reminder of the harsh realities of medieval existence. The common historical fact that medieval people often used gold for dental repairs, not as fillings, but sometimes as decorative caps or to hold loose teeth together, is a fascinating glimpse into the intersection of wealth and early dentistry. While not a true fix for decay, a wealthy noble might have a gold band placed around a loose tooth, hoping to stabilize it. This was more about status and appearance than actual dental health. A visible display of wealth even in the face of oral decay. It's like putting a fancy hat on a broken car. It looks better, but it's still not going anywhere. Consider your daily diet. It's heavy on grains, coarse, stone-ground bread that can be surprisingly abrasive, leaving tiny particles to lodge in crevices. Sweeteners, when available, are primarily honey, a sticky, sugary delight that clings to your teeth, providing a veritable feast for the bacteria that thrive in your mouth. Fresh fruits and vegetables are seasonal luxuries, and the concept of balanced nutrition is centuries away. You're not getting the vitamins and minerals that might strengthen your enamel, nor are you avoiding the acidic foods that erode it. Every meal, every snack, is a slow, methodical assault on your dental health. It's like a tiny, microscopic army of decay, marching relentlessly through your mouth, and you're completely unaware of their destructive campaign. It's almost as if medieval people were actively trying to get cavities, though, of course, they weren't. They just didn't know any better. As the sun sets, you eat your last meal of the day, a simple affair of gruel and perhaps some boiled root vegetables. You chew slowly, carefully, trying to avoid the teeth that are already decaying or missing. You feel the small bits of food getting trapped, a familiar discomfort. You know that no matter how hard you try, your diet and living conditions are slowly but surely destroying your teeth. You can only hope that the pain won't return tonight, and you can get some peaceful, pain-free sleep, undisturbed by your decaying teeth. And then there's the hygiene, or rather, the distinct lack thereof. The idea of brushing your teeth twice a day with a fluoride toothpaste. That's a futuristic fantasy. Your morning routine, if it involves any oral care at all, might consist of rinsing your mouth with water, perhaps chewing on a twig or a rough cloth to dislodge food particles. Some might rub their teeth with a bit of salt or herbs, but the effectiveness is minimal. Plaque builds up, tartar hardens, and the acidic environment in your mouth becomes a breeding ground for infection. You can almost feel the grittiness on your teeth, the dull film that coats your tongue, the pervasive bad breath that follows you like a loyal, albeit smelly. Shadow is simply a fact of life, not something to be remedied. It's a wonder anyone had any teeth left by the time they reached middle age. I mean, if you thought your morning breath was bad, imagine 1,000 years of accumulated bad breath. It's a whole new level of don't stand downwind. The process of creating these early prosthetics was entirely manual, relying on the skill of a craftsman rather than a trained dental professional. A local artisan, perhaps a jeweler or a carver, might be commissioned to fashion a replacement tooth. You would sit patiently as they painstakingly carved and shaped the bone or ivory, trying to match the size and shape of your missing tooth. The fit would be approximate at best, often causing irritation to your gums and making eating even more difficult. You've survived the persistent aches, the bizarre remedies, and even the brutal ministrations of the barber surgeon. You've attempted rudimentary hygiene and grappled with the destructive impact of your daily diet. But there are times when the pain becomes utterly unbearable, so horrific that the usual measures simply aren't enough. This is when you step into an even more brutal world, where extreme interventions, the most excruciating fixes, are brought to bear. As desperation reaches its peak and the line between healing and torture blurs, the prevailing understanding of disease is rooted in the ancient concept of humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. An imbalance in these bodily fluids is believed to cause illness, and a toothache is no exception. It's not a bacterial infection, you see, but a manifestation of some internal disharmony, perhaps too much phlegm, or an excess of black bile. This fundamental misunderstanding means that treatments are rarely targeted at the actual problem. Instead, they aim to restore balance, often through purging, bleeding, or applying substances that are thought to counteract the offending humor. It's like trying to fix a leaky roof by painting the walls. You're addressing a symptom, but missing the root cause entirely. Perhaps the most common and terrifying belief surrounding tooth decay is the tooth worm. You've heard the whispers in the marketplace, the hushed tales by the firelight, a tiny, insidious worm burrowing into your tooth, gnawing at its core, causing the excruciating pain. This common historical fact, prevalent across many cultures and centuries, provides a tangible, albeit incorrect, explanation for the unseen agony. You might even imagine it a wriggling creature deep within your molar, and the thought alone is enough to send shivers down your spine. This belief, while scientifically baseless, dictated many of the cures you'd encounter. After all, if a worm is causing the problem, then the solution must be to get rid of the worm. Right. Imagine the pain is not just a cavity, but a massive abscess, swelling one entire side of your face. Your features are distorted, your skin stretched taut, and the pain feels like a fire burning deep within your jawbone. A high fever, chills, and a foul, putrid smell emanating from your mouth signal that the infection has spread dangerously. Herbal remedies, prayers, and even simple tooth extraction won't suffice for this. You are facing a very real threat to your life, and you need something more drastic. And what about the pain of having these crude prosthetics installed? If they involved tying to existing teeth, the constant pressure and friction would cause irritation, inflammation, and eventually, the loosening of the supporting teeth themselves. It was a vicious cycle where the attempt to fix one problem often created several new ones. You'd be trading one kind of pain for another, less acute but more persistent, kind of suffering. So, what do you do when the pain becomes unbearable? You turn to the folk remedies, the wisdom passed down through generations, often steeped in superstition and desperation. You might try holding a hot onion against your cheek, hoping the warmth will draw out the evil. Or perhaps you'll chew on certain herbs, their bitter juices meant to soothe or kill the unseen tormentor. There are poultices made from strange ingredients, perhaps a mixture of ground herbs, animal dung, or even crushed insects, applied directly to the aching tooth or gum. The smell alone is enough to make you wince, but the promise of relief, however faint, outweighs the immediate repulsion. One of the most extreme measures is cauterization. If a tooth is so severely decayed that it causes relentless pain, or if the gums are terribly inflamed, some practitioners would use heat to burn out the problem. You might witness a blacksmith or a skilled individual holding a red-hot iron rod, or a heated metal instrument approaching your mouth. The smell of burning flesh and hair would assault your nostrils, a horrifying odor you would never forget. You'd feel the searing heat radiating, and then an unbearable burning sensation as the metal touches your gum or tooth. This was an attempt to destroy the decay or to kill the nerve. But often, it only caused further damage and excruciating pain. It's like trying to fix a watch with a blowtorch. Sure, there's heat, but it's not going to work. One particularly obscure detail you might encounter is the use of a dead man's tooth as a charm. It's believed that carrying a tooth pulled from a corpse, or even rubbing it against your own aching tooth, could transfer the pain away or prevent future decay. The thought of it is grim, macabre even, but when you're in constant agony, you'd consider almost anything. You might see a desperate soul clutching a yellowed, ancient tooth, muttering incantations, hoping against hope that this strange relic will bring them peace. It's a testament to the sheer desperation of the time, where logic often gave way to magical thinking in the face of overwhelming suffering. The academic debate continues. Did these early attempts at dental prosthetics, however rudimentary, genuinely improve the quality of life for medieval individuals? Or did they often lead to more harm than good due to infection and discomfort? It's a difficult balance to strike when evaluating historical medical practices, as our modern understanding of hygiene and biology profoundly shapes our perspective. The pain of cauterization is on another level from a regular toothache. It's a brutal torment, a deep, searing burn that radiates through your jawbone. You might scream an uninhibited, guttural sound, But those around you and who have either endured or witnessed similar horrors would only look on with grim acceptance and sympathy. There are no painkillers, no way to soothe this horrific burn. You simply endure, hoping that the fiery destruction will somehow put an end to the original agony. The pain doesn't just affect your mouth, it permeates your entire being. You become irritable, exhausted from sleepless nights, unable to concentrate on your work in the fields or at the loom. Eating is a chore. Speaking is difficult, and even smiling is an agonizing prospect. The constant throb makes you short-tempered with your family, distant from your friends. It's a silent, debilitating illness that isolates you, even in a crowded village. You might try to ignore it, to tough it out, but the pain is a persistent, nagging presence, reminding you of its existence with every pulse of your blood. And what about the remedies that involve fire? Yes, fire. Some practitioners, believing in the toothworm, would attempt to smoke out the creature. You might be told to inhale the smoke from burning herbs, or even to hold a hot iron near the offending tooth, hoping the heat would drive the worm away. The smell of burning herbs, the searing heat, the fear of accidentally burning your mouth, it's a terrifying prospect. But the promise of relief, however slim, is a powerful motivator. It's a bit like trying to get rid of a mouse in your house by setting the whole place on fire. Sure, the mouse might leave, but you'll have bigger problems. A common historical fact is that cauterization was widely used in medieval medicine, not just for teeth, but for various wounds and ailments, with the belief that it would cleanse the wound, stop bleeding, and destroy disease. For teeth, it was thought to kill the infected nerve or remove diseased tissue. While it might temporarily numb the nerve due to thermal shock, it also caused extensive tissue damage, leading to secondary infections and bone necrosis. You might bear the blackened, charred mark on your gum or tooth, a permanent scar of this brutal intervention. You might hear a story about a particularly desperate individual who, having lost several front teeth, resorted to carving replacements from the teeth of a pig. The pig teeth, though roughly shaped, were then inserted into the empty sockets and held in place by sheer pressure and the hope of the patient. The result was a grotesque, ill-fitting set of teeth that would inevitably fall out, often taking bits of gum and bone with them. It's a truly horrifying image, but a testament to the lengths to which people would go to restore their appearance and ability to eat. I mean, who needs a dentist when you have a pig farm? The academic debate still lingers among historians. To what extent did the medieval diet, particularly the reliance on coarse grains and the scarcity of certain nutrients, contribute to the widespread dental issues, versus the impact of poor hygiene and the lack of scientific understanding? Was it primarily the abrasive nature of their food, or the sugary content, or simply the absence of preventative care that led to such rampant decay? The answer, like many things in history, is likely a complex interplay of all these factors. But the exact weighting remains a subject of ongoing discussion in dusty academic halls. One particularly obscure detail involves the use of strong acids or corrosive substances to dissolve decayed teeth or remove infected tissue. This was an incredibly dangerous practice, often performed by individuals with no real medical knowledge. You might be instructed to hold a drop of strong acid like diluted sulfuric acid or another caustic substance in your mouth, aiming for the aching tooth. The immediate burning sensation, the horrific acrid taste spreading through your mouth, and the fear that you might accidentally swallow the poison are immense. More often than not, this would simply damage surrounding healthy teeth, cause burns to the gums and tongue, and rarely solve the original problem. It's like trying to remove a small stain by pouring bleach over the entire garment. The stain might go, but so will the shirt. You might hear tales of more extreme measures, even in these early stages of your dental nightmare. Some desperate individuals might attempt to extract their own teeth, using whatever crude tools they can find, a blacksmith's pliers, a sturdy piece of rope, or even just their bare hands. The screams, if successful, would echo through the village, a chilling testament to the agony involved. More often than not, these attempts would result in fractured teeth, shattered jaws, and even worse infections. It's a stark reminder that while the pain was unbearable, the cure could often be even more devastating. The psychological impact of missing teeth, or having crude, painful prosthetics, cannot be overstated. It affected self-esteem, social interactions, and even one's ability to secure a good marriage or employment. A full, healthy set of teeth, even in the medieval period, was a sign of vitality and good health, while a mouth full of gaps and decaying stumps was a mark of misfortune. You might find yourself shying away from conversations, covering your mouth when you smiled, or simply avoiding social gatherings altogether. Historians still debate whether extreme interventions like cauterization or the use of acids were truly common practices, or if they were last resort measures, rarely employed due to their extreme risks. Do the accounts of such brutality reflect a widespread medical reality? Or are they isolated cases that have been exaggerated over time? The scarcity of detailed records and reliance on anecdotal accounts make it challenging to ascertain their true prevalence. The lack of understanding about infection is also a terrifying aspect of medieval dental problems. A simple cavity, if left untreated, could lead to an abscess, a pocket of pus that swells your face, causing excruciating pressure and fever. Without antibiotics, such infections could spread rapidly, leading to sepsis, a systemic infection that could easily claim your life. A toothache, therefore, was not just a localized pain, it was a potential death sentence. You might see neighbors or family members with swollen, disfigured faces, their eyes glazed with fever, their lives slowly ebbing away, all because of a tiny hole in a tooth. It's a grim reality that hangs over every ache and throb, and yet, life goes on. You have to work, you have to eat, you have to survive. You try to push the pain to the back of your mind, to focus on the tasks at hand. But it's always there, a constant nagging reminder of your vulnerability. You might pray to saints, offer sacrifices, or seek out the local wise woman, hoping for some magical incantation or herbal concoction that will finally bring relief. The desperation is palpable, a heavy cloak that settles over you with every passing moment of agony. When infection spread to the jawbone, causing osteomyelitis, some extreme cases could lead to the excision of part of the necrotic bone. This was not surgery in the modern sense, but a desperate attempt to save the patient's life. You might witness a barber surgeon, with his crude tools, attempting to chip away at the infected bone. The pain would be unimaginable, and the risk of death from shock, blood loss, or post-operative infection was incredibly high. You would survive with a permanently disfigured face, a gaping hole in your jaw, and scars to remind you of the horrific ordeal. Even the wealthy, who could afford the more elaborate and often equally ineffective dental fixes, faced immense challenges. Their gold-capped teeth might look impressive, but the underlying decay continued its relentless march, hidden beneath the gleaming metal. The pain, though masked, would eventually return, and the cycle of suffering would begin anew. It was a superficial solution to a deep-seated problem. The very air you breathe in this medieval world seems to carry the echoes of dental suffering. You see people with missing teeth, gaps in their smiles, or faces contorted in expressions of chronic pain. It's a common sight, so common that it barely registers as unusual. Everyone, it seems, has their own dental woes, their own stories of agony and desperate remedies. You are not alone in your suffering, but that offers little comfort when the pain is a roaring fire in your mouth. You just want it to stop. You would give anything for it to stop. Remember the belief in the toothworm causing decay. When conventional remedies failed, some would turn to exorcisms for teeth. You might witness a ceremony where a priest or a supposed spiritual healer attempts to drive the demonic toothworm out of your mouth. There might be loud prayers, incense rituals, and even the application of religious artifacts to your face or mouth. While having no physical effect, for some, the belief in divine intervention could offer a temporary sense of peace, a release from the fear of an unseen entity gnawing at them. The throbbing in your jaw is a relentless drum, a constant reminder that something is deeply, terribly wrong. But in this medieval world, the wrong isn't what you'd call a bacterial infection or a compromised nerve. Oh no. The diagnosis, if you could even call it that, is far more esoteric, far more rooted in the ancient wisdom of the humors. You see, your body, according to the prevailing medical thought, is a delicate balance of 4 primary fluids: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Each is associated with certain qualities: hot, cold, wet, dry, and with specific organs and temperaments. When these humors are in harmony, you are healthy. When they are out of balance, illness, like this infernal toothache, takes root. The common historical fact that medieval dentistry, unlike other medical fields, saw very little advancement for centuries is a grim truth. While some progress was made in surgery and herbal medicine, the understanding of dental health remained stubbornly primitive. The tools, the techniques, and the underlying theories changed little from the early medieval period to the late, leaving generations to suffer from the same agonizing problems with the same brutal fixes. It's a stagnant pool of suffering, with little hope of innovation. Another obscure detail is the use of certain plant-based poisons to kill the tooth nerve. Some plants, like henbane or the opium poppy, contained powerful narcotic and analgesic compounds. However, the dosage was incredibly difficult to control, and an overdose could be fatal. You might be given a small amount of opium resin to chew, feeling a numbing sensation spread, but also accompanied by the fear of falling into a deep sleep and never waking up. It was a dangerous gamble with the line between pain relief and death. So, your tooth isn't aching because of a tiny hole drilled by microscopic organisms. It's aching because perhaps you have an excess of cold, wet phlegm, or a fiery surge of yellow bile. This fundamental misconception, this ancient framework for understanding the human body, dictates every single cure you might encounter. It's like trying to fix a broken wagon wheel by adjusting the sails on a ship. The logic is there in a twisted, medieval sort of way, but it's entirely misapplied to the problem at hand. Imagine seeking out the local physician, a man often more learned in ancient texts than in practical anatomy. He doesn't peer into your mouth with a tiny mirror and a bright light. Instead, he might observe your complexion, feel your pulse, ask about your temperament, and perhaps even examine your urine. He's looking for signs of humoral imbalance. If your face is flushed, perhaps it's an excess of hot blood. If you're pale and lethargic, maybe too much cold phlegm. Your toothache, to him, is merely a symptom, a visible manifestation of an internal disequilibrium that needs to be corrected. Historians still debate whether these exorcisms for teeth were a form of psychological healing, helping patients cope with pain and helplessness, or if they were considered legitimate medical practices within the context of medieval religious beliefs and superstitions. The complex interplay between faith, medicine, and psychology in this period remains a challenging area of study. You might also encounter individuals who used various natural resins or gums to temporarily fill cavities or to stick loose teeth back into place. These were crude, temporary solutions, offering a few hours or days of relief before the material dissolved or dislodged, leaving the tooth exposed once more. It was a constant battle against decay, a never-ending cycle of temporary fixes and recurring pain. You might hear gruesome tales of individuals who, in sheer desperation, attempted to remove their own aching teeth using the most brutal methods imaginable. Perhaps a chisel and hammer to smash the tooth, or a piece of rope tied around it and yanked violently. These self-inflicted acts often led to even more severe injuries, such as jaw fractures, damage to surrounding healthy teeth, and overwhelming infection. Desperation can drive humans to unimaginable acts, and in the medieval world, without professional help, self-mutilation was sometimes seen as the only option. It's like trying to fix your car by taking the engine out with your bare hands. You might get it out, but it won't be a car anymore. Let's say the physician determines you have an excess of hot, dry yellow bile. This might be the cause of your inflamed gums and the radiating pain. What's the remedy? Well, you need to cool and moisten things. Perhaps a diet of cooling foods, like cucumbers or lettuce, if they're in season. Or, more drastically, he might prescribe a purgative, a concoction designed to make you vomit or empty your bowels, expelling the offending bile from your system. You gulp down the bitter liquid, your stomach churning, hoping that the violent expulsion will somehow magically alleviate the throbbing in your jaw. It's a truly unpleasant experience, leaving you weak and dehydrated, and yet the tooth still aches. It's like trying to put out a house fire by flushing the toilet. You're moving water around, but it's not doing much good for the inferno. The lack of effective anesthesia meant that every dental intervention was a nightmare. Even the smallest procedures caused excruciating pain. For the more extreme interventions, like cauterization or bone excision, the pain would be an experience beyond human endurance. You might pass out from the agony or go into shock. But even then, your body would remember every horrific moment. Or perhaps the diagnosis points to an excess of cold, wet phlegm, believed to cause swelling and dull, persistent pain. To counteract this, the physician might recommend warming and drying remedies. You might be told to apply hot compresses to your cheek, or to consume warming spices like ginger or pepper. Some might even suggest inhaling the fumes of certain burning herbs, hoping the dry heat will dissipate the phlegm. You dutifully follow these instructions, your face flushed from the heat, your mouth tasting of pungent herbs, but the phlegm and the pain remain stubbornly in place. It's a bit like trying to dry a wet towel by waving a feather at it. Technically, you're moving air, but the towel isn't getting any drier. And the smell of blood, of pus, of burning flesh, of strong spirits used for antiseptic or numbing purposes, all blended into a distinct aroma of suffering and desperation. It was the smell of a medieval operating room, a smell you would never forget, a reminder that you had been through something truly horrific. The academic debate still explores the role of cultural attitudes towards pain and suffering in the acceptance of these brutal dental practices. Did medieval people simply have a higher tolerance for pain? Or did their religious beliefs, which often viewed suffering as a path to spiritual purification, make them more accepting of agonizing medical procedures? It's a complex interplay of physical endurance, cultural norms, and spiritual beliefs that shaped their experience of dental fixes. A common historical fact is that the use of natural sedatives, like alcohol or opium, was the only way to dull the pain during medical procedures. However, they often only made the patient drowsy or delirious, rather than completely eliminating the pain. You might feel your head spinning, your body heavy, but the pain would still be there, a small but persistent flame in the darkness. A common historical fact is that bloodletting was a ubiquitous medical practice throughout the medieval period, believed to restore humoral balance for a vast array of ailments, including toothaches. If your physician suspects an excess of blood, or simply believes that letting out bad blood will alleviate pressure and pain, he might recommend venesection. You watch, perhaps with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. As a barber surgeon, we'll get to them in more detail later, makes a small incision in your arm or neck, allowing a stream of your vital fluid to flow into a bowl. The sight of your own blood, warm and dark, pooling in the basin, is unsettling. You feel lightheaded, perhaps even faint. But the prevailing belief is that this purging is necessary to bring your humors back into alignment. The relief, if any, is fleeting, often just the temporary distraction of weakness, and the tooth continues its relentless throb. It's a stark reminder that sometimes the cure was arguably worse than the disease. You might see others in the village with disfigured faces, deep scars, or large gaps in their jaws, all remnants of these extreme interventions. They are survivors, but at a great cost. Each scar, each missing piece is a testament to untold suffering, a grim reminder of the brutality of medieval medicine. Beyond the major humors, there were also more localized theories. The tooth itself might be seen as having its own humoral imbalance. An inflamed, painful tooth could be considered hot, requiring cooling applications. A dull, aching tooth might be cold, needing warmth. This led to a bewildering array of topical remedies. You might apply a paste made of cooling herbs like plantain or rose petals to your gum, hoping to draw out the heat. Or, conversely, a warming poultice of mustard seed or ginger, designed to stimulate circulation and dispel cold. The efficacy, of course, was negligible, but the ritual of application, the hope it engendered, provided a psychological balm, if nothing else. Historians still debate whether these extreme interventions, brutal as they were, actually prolonged the lives of patients in some severe cases of infection. Did the removal of a large abscess, however crudely, truly prevent the spread of infection and save a life? Or did they often hasten death through shock and complications? It's a complex ethical and medical question, as we look back on the past with modern standards. As the years pass, you see the cumulative effect of these medieval dental practices. Faces become gaunt, jaws recede, and the once proud smiles of youth transform into grimaces of pain and loss. The very act of eating, once a simple pleasure, becomes a constant reminder of the decay that has ravaged your mouth. You learn to live with the gaps, the aches, and the constant fear of infection. The fixes were rarely permanent, often painful, and sometimes even more dangerous than the original ailment. You just hope that your remaining teeth hold out, for the thought of another visit to the barber surgeon or another attempt at a horrifying prosthetic is almost as bad as the pain itself. As night falls, you lie in your bed, your jaw still aching, but the pain a dull throb compared to what it once was. You touch the fresh scar, feeling its rough texture. You have survived something truly terrible, an experience you will never forget. You know that in this world, sometimes to fix a problem, you must endure an even greater pain. You can only hope that, at the very least, you will have a peaceful night's sleep, undisturbed by the images and sounds of the extreme interventions you have just endured. One particularly obscure detail related to humoral theory and dental issues involves the belief that certain planetary alignments or astrological configurations could influence the balance of humors in the body, thereby predisposing an individual to specific ailments, including toothaches. You might consult an astrologer, not just a physician, to determine if the stars were aligned against your oral health. They might tell you that the moon's position in a certain house or the influence of a particular planet is causing an excess of melancholic black bile, leading to your dental woes. The prescribed remedy then might not just be a purgative, but also an amulet, a specific prayer, or even the timing of your bloodletting to coincide with a more auspicious celestial event. It's a fascinating, if utterly unscientific, fusion of medicine and mysticism, highlighting the desperate lengths people would go to find an explanation and a cure for their suffering. You face the fire, the acids, the bone-chilling prospect of self-mutilation. You've seen the very edge of medieval dental desperation. But even beyond the individual agony, there's a broader, more insidious impact of this constant dental suffering on medieval society as a whole. It's a silent epidemic, a pervasive background hum of discomfort and disability that shapes lives, limits opportunities, and even influences the very fabric of daily existence. This is the lasting ache, the enduring legacy of medieval dentistry's brutal, often futile, attempts to fix teeth. You might also encounter remedies that seem utterly bizarre, even by medieval standards, but are rooted in humoral logic. For instance, some texts suggest that a toothache caused by an excess of hot humor could be cured by holding a cold frog against the cheek. The coldness of the amphibian was believed to draw out the heat and pain. You can almost feel the slimy, cold skin of the frog against your inflamed cheek. A truly unpleasant sensation, but one you might endure if the pain is severe enough. It's a testament to the desperate, often gross, ingenuity of medieval folk medicine. I mean, who came up with that one? My tooth hurts, fetch me a frog. It sounds like a bad fairy tale, but it was a real treatment. Imagine the cumulative effect of a lifetime of dental pain. From childhood, when coarse grains and lack of hygiene begin their slow assault, to adulthood, where extractions and infections become grim realities. You see the faces of your elders? Their mouths a landscape of missing teeth, their jaws sunken, their expressions often etched with chronic discomfort. This isn't a rare affliction, it's a universal experience, a shared burden that binds communities in a quiet, collective agony. It's like everyone is walking around with a pebble in their shoe, but some have a whole handful of rocks. Having endured the barber surgeon's brutal ministrations and the futile attempts at filling or replacing lost teeth, you might think you've plumbed the depths of medieval dental misery. But alas, dear listener, we have yet to fully confront the daily reality of oral hygiene in this bygone era. Forget your morning routine of brushing, flossing, and rinsing with minty mouthwash. In the medieval world, the concept of preventative care, of actively maintaining your teeth to avoid decay, was as alien as a flying machine. Instead, you're faced with a horrifying daily ritual, or often a complete lack thereof, that actively contributes to the very problems you desperately try to fix. The impact on nutrition is profound. With missing teeth, chewing becomes a laborious, often painful ordeal. You are forced to rely on softer foods, gruel, pottage, finely chopped vegetables, even if more nutritious. Tougher options are available. This further limits an already restricted diet, potentially exacerbating nutritional deficiencies that weaken bones and teeth even more. It's a vicious cycle. Poor diet leads to bad teeth, and bad teeth lead to an even poorer diet. You're essentially stuck in a culinary feedback loop of misery. The concept of sympathetic magic also intertwined with humoral theory. If your toothache was caused by a cold humor, you might be advised to wear a bag of hot herbs around your neck, or even to sleep with a warm piece of bread under your pillow. The idea was that the warmth, even at a distance, would sympathetically draw out the coldness from your tooth. It's a charmingly naive belief, but one that offered a glimmer of hope in a world devoid of true understanding. It's like trying to warm up your house by putting a tiny candle in the attic. You mean well, but it's not going to do much. Consider the social implications. While missing teeth were common, a severely disfigured mouth could affect your marriage prospects, your ability to secure certain trades, or even your general acceptance in polite society, especially among the wealthier classes. A full set of teeth, even if stained and worn, was a sign of health and vitality. A gaping, infected maw, however, was a mark of misfortune, perhaps even a sign of divine disfavor. You might find yourself shying away from public speaking, or smiling with your lips pressed tightly together, a small, ingrained habit born of self-consciousness. And then there are the dietary prescriptions, often tied directly to humoral theory. If you had a hot toothache, you might be forbidden from eating hot foods like garlic, onions, or strong spices. Instead, you'd be encouraged to consume cold foods like fish, certain fruits, and dairy. Conversely, a cold toothache would necessitate a diet rich in warming foods. This strict adherence to humoral dietary rules meant that your meals, already limited, became even more restrictive, all in the vain hope of rebalancing your internal fluids. You're already suffering from a toothache, and now you can't even eat that delicious, albeit tough, roasted chicken because it's too hot. The indignity. A common historical fact is that archaeological evidence from medieval burial sites consistently shows high rates of dental disease, including extensive caries cavities, abscesses, and ante-mortem tooth loss teeth lost before death. Skeletons often reveal jaws riddled with infection, bone loss, and evidence of multiple extractions. This physical record provides a grim testament to the widespread nature of dental suffering, far more compelling than any written account. It's like the bones themselves are whispering tales of agony. You wake each morning, your mouth feeling less than fresh, perhaps a lingering taste of last night's stew, or the dry, unpleasant sensation that comes from breathing through your mouth all night. The first instinct isn't to reach for a toothbrush, because such an implement, as you know it, simply doesn't exist. Your fingers might probe your teeth, feeling the gritty film, the rough edges of tartar buildup. It's a constant, low-level discomfort, a dull awareness of the uncleanliness that pervades your mouth. One particularly obscure detail is the potential impact of chronic dental pain on mental health. While not explicitly documented in medieval texts, modern understanding suggests that persistent, debilitating pain can lead to chronic stress, anxiety, and even depression. Imagine living with that constant throb, that gnawing discomfort, day in and day out, with no real hope of lasting relief. It's not just a physical burden, it's a psychological one, slowly eroding your spirit and your capacity for joy. You might find yourself more irritable, withdrawn, or simply resigned to your fate, a silent victim of your own aching mouth. The physician might also prescribe various elixirs and potions, each carefully formulated to target a specific humoral imbalance. These concoctions often contained a bewildering array of ingredients, powdered herbs, animal extracts, minerals, and sometimes even precious stones, ground into a fine powder. You'd swallow the bitter liquid, hoping that the mixture of exotic and mundane elements would somehow restore harmony to your internal landscape. The taste alone is enough to make you gag, but the promise of relief, however distant, keeps you from refusing. Historians still debate the extent to which medieval dental problems contributed to overall mortality rates. While direct deaths from a simple toothache were rare, the complications, severe infections leading to sepsis, malnutrition from inability to eat, or even complications from brutal extractions, undoubtedly shortened lifespans. Was a severe toothache a direct cause of death, or a contributing factor that weakened the body and made it more susceptible to other fatal diseases? The precise impact on medieval demographics remains a complex, unresolved question. Remember that pervasive bad breath we talked about? Well, according to humoral theory, even that could be attributed to an imbalance. Perhaps an excess of putrid phlegm or a buildup of noxious black bile in the stomach, manifesting as foul odors from the mouth. The cure wouldn't be a minty mouthwash, but rather a purgative to cleanse the bowels, or a special diet to reduce the offending humor. It's a holistic, if misguided, approach, where every symptom is linked to the grand tapestry of humoral imbalance. The economic burden of dental problems, though rarely quantified, was significant. Time lost from work due to agonizing pain. The cost of seeking remedies from physicians, wise women, or barber surgeons, and the reduced productivity due to chronic discomfort all chipped away at the meager resources of medieval families. A toothache wasn't just a personal affliction, it was an economic drain, a silent thief stealing away your livelihood. It's like a tiny, invisible tax on your existence, levied by your own decaying teeth. The most common form of oral hygiene is simply rinsing your mouth with water. Perhaps after a meal, you might take a swig from a communal bucket, swish it around, and spit it out. The water, often drawn from a well or a river, is unlikely to be clean itself, potentially introducing new bacteria rather than washing them away. It's a bit like trying to clean a muddy boot by splashing it with more mud. You're going through the motions, but the results are negligible. Think about the impact on speech. Missing front teeth, in particular, could lead to lisps or difficulty forming certain sounds, making communication a challenge. In a world where oral tradition and face-to-face interaction were paramount, this could be a significant handicap. You might find yourself speaking less or speaking more slowly, carefully articulating each word to avoid embarrassing whistles or slurs. You might also witness, or even undergo, the application of leeches. Yes, leeches. If the physician believes there's too much bad blood contributing to the inflammation and pain, he might apply several leeches to your gums or the skin near your jaw. You feel the squirming, slimy creatures attach themselves, their tiny mouths latching onto your flesh, slowly engorging themselves with your blood. The sight is repulsive, the sensation unsettling. But the hope is that these blood-sucking invertebrates will draw out the offending humors, thereby alleviating the pain. It's a grotesque ballet of desperation, where the very thought of it makes your stomach churn. The common historical fact that medieval medical texts, while discussing various ailments, often dedicated surprisingly little detailed attention to dental care beyond extraction, highlights the low priority given to oral health. It was seen as a problem to be endured or removed, rather than prevented or meticulously repaired. This lack of specialized knowledge meant that dental practices remained stagnant for centuries, a dark corner in the broader landscape of medieval medicine. The common belief in the medieval period was that diseases, including toothaches, could also be caused by external factors, such as evil spirits or divine punishment. While humoral theory provided a scientific for its time explanation, superstition often filled the gaps. You might find yourself caught between the physician's humoral remedies and the local priest's prayers for exorcism or penance. Was your toothache a sign of too much black bile, or a punishment for some unconfessed sin? The answer, for many, was a terrifying blend of both. You might hear a story about a wealthy merchant who, despite his riches, suffered from such chronic tooth pain that he became a recluse, unable to enjoy feasts or engage in social gatherings. His wealth could buy him temporary relief, but never a true cure, highlighting that even privilege couldn't escape the pervasive agony of medieval dental woes. It's a reminder that money couldn't buy happiness, or healthy teeth back then. Some might use a piece of coarse cloth or a rough twig to rub their teeth, attempting to dislodge food particles. You can imagine the abrasive sensation against your gums, the irritation it causes. This isn't a gentle massage, it's a vigorous, often painful scrubbing that might remove some surface debris but does little to combat plaque or reach into the crevices where decay truly begins. It's like trying to polish a diamond with sandpaper. You're certainly doing something, but it's probably not what you intended. The intergenerational impact is also chilling. Children would observe their parents and grandparents suffering from dental problems, growing up with the grim expectation that they too would face similar agonies. The knowledge of remedies, however ineffective, would be passed down, perpetuating a cycle of pain and crude fixes. There was no hope of a brighter dental future, only the inevitability of decay and law. The concept of drawing out the pain was central to many humoral treatments. If the pain was believed to be caused by a cold humor, then applying heat was meant to draw out the cold. If it was a hot humor, then cold applications would draw out the heat. This simple and intuitive logic, though flawed in its understanding of the underlying pathology, guided many of the poultices and compresses you might apply to your aching jaw. You'd feel the warmth or coolness spreading, hoping it was actively pulling the agony from your very being. The academic debate still explores the psychological resilience of medieval people in the face of such pervasive pain. Did their strong religious beliefs, which often viewed suffering as a path to spiritual purification, help them cope with chronic agony? Or did the sheer ubiquity of pain simply normalize it, making it an accepted part of the human condition, rather than something to be actively combated? It's a fascinating look into the human psyche under extreme duress. Another fascinating, if disturbing, detail is the use of mummia, powdered mummy, in some medieval remedies. While not directly tied to humoral theory, it was believed to possess potent healing properties, often associated with restoring vital energies or balances. You might find a physician prescribing a tiny pinch of this macabre ingredient, mixed into a potion or applied as a poultice, hoping its ancient power would somehow alleviate your dental torment. The thought of consuming ground-up human remains is enough to make you shudder, but in an age of such profound suffering, desperate measures were often embraced without question. It's like, my tooth hurts, so let's grind up a pharaoh. What could possibly go wrong? The very landscape of medieval art and literature, while not explicitly dental, often reflects the realities of life and death, sickness and health. While perfect smiles are rare in depictions of common folk, the absence of dental care is an unspoken truth woven into the fabric of their existence. You see it in the slightly downturned mouths, the subtle lines of pain around the eyes, the way a hand might instinctively rise to cover a mouth when laughing. A common historical fact is that various natural substances were used as early forms of toothpaste or mouthwash. These often included powdered herbs like mint or sage, salt, or even charcoal. You might rub a pinch of salt directly onto your teeth, feeling the sharp sting against your gums, hoping its abrasive quality will somehow cleanse your mouth. Or you might chew on a sprig of a fragrant herb, believing its natural properties will sweeten your breath and ward off decay. The taste is often bitter, the sensation unpleasant, but the hope of a cleaner mouth drives you on. The smell of medieval society, a blend of unwashed bodies, animal waste, and general grime, would have been overwhelming. And within that olfactory assault, the distinct aroma of unbrushed, decaying teeth would have been a common, if unpleasant, component. You'd simply grow accustomed to it, a constant background hum of human existence. The academic debate continues regarding the extent to which medieval medical practitioners genuinely believed in the efficacy of their humoral treatments, or if there was an underlying, unspoken understanding of their limitations, particularly when faced with chronic, intractable pain like a severe toothache. Did they truly believe a frog could cure a toothache? Or was it a desperate attempt to offer something when nothing else worked? The nuances of their belief systems and the psychological role of their remedies are still being unraveled by historians. The common historical fact that the average lifespan in the medieval period was significantly shorter than today. And while many factors contributed to this, chronic infections stemming from dental problems undoubtedly played a role. A severe tooth abscess, left untreated, could easily lead to a systemic infection that claimed a life. Dental pain wasn't just discomfort, it was a potential death sentence. You might also be advised to change your lifestyle, not just your diet, to rebalance your humors. If you were deemed to have an excess of hot humors, perhaps you'd be told to avoid strenuous activity, or to spend less time in the sun. If cold humors were the culprit, more exercise or warmer clothing might be prescribed. Every aspect of your existence, from your food to your daily routine, could be manipulated in the futile pursuit of humoral equilibrium. It's a comprehensive, all-encompassing system that leaves no stone unturned. Except, of course, the actual source of your dental pain. As you reflect on this journey through medieval dental agony, you realize the profound difference that modern dentistry has made. The simple act of brushing your teeth, the availability of pain relief, the miracle of fillings and root canals. These are not just conveniences, they are fundamental improvements in human well-being that were unimaginable for centuries. The medieval world, with its horrible methods, its desperate remedies, and its pervasive pain serves as a stark reminder of how far we've come. You close your eyes, the images of suffering fading, and you feel a profound gratitude for the quiet, pain-free hum of your own healthy teeth. One particularly obscure detail is the use of dragon's blood as a tooth cleaning agent. Now, don't imagine actual dragon's blood. This was a resin from a specific type of tree, known for its reddish color and believed medicinal properties. It was powdered and sometimes mixed with other ingredients to form a crude dentifrice. The idea was that its astringent qualities would firm up the gums and clean the teeth. You can almost smell the pungent, earthy aroma as you rub the reddish powder onto your teeth. A strange and exotic ritual in the pursuit of oral health. It's like trying to clean your teeth with a magical tree sap. It sounds cool, but it's probably not doing much. You've journeyed through the medieval landscape of dental agony, witnessing the crude attempts at healing, the desperate measures, and the pervasive suffering that defined oral health for centuries. You've seen the fire, the acids, the bone-chilling prospect of self-mutilation, and the broader, insidious impact of constant dental suffering on medieval society. Now, as our journey nears its end, we reflect on the lasting ache, the enduring legacy of medieval dentistry's brutal, often futile, attempts to fix teeth, and how this grim history shapes our appreciation for the quiet comforts of modern life. The smell of the physician's office is a blend of dried herbs, stale incense, and something vaguely medicinal. Perhaps a hint of vinegar or alcohol used for cleaning. You sit on a rough wooden bench, your jaw throbbing, listening to the learned pronouncements about your internal fluids. He might consult a thick, leather-bound tome, its pages filled with intricate diagrams of the human body and detailed descriptions of humoral imbalances. The sheer weight of ancient knowledge, however flawed, is impressive, and you cling to the hope that within those pages lies the secret to your relief. Imagine, if you will, the cumulative effect of a lifetime of dental pain. From childhood, when coarse grains and lack of hygiene begin their slow assault, to adulthood, where extractions and infections become grim realities. You see the faces of your elders, their mouths a landscape of missing teeth, their jaws sunken, their expressions often etched with chronic discomfort. This isn't a rare affliction, it's a universal experience, a shared burden that binds communities in a quiet, collective agony. It's like everyone is walking around with a pebble in their shoe, but some have a whole handful of rocks, and those rocks are slowly dissolving their feet. The common historical fact that medieval medicine was a blend of empirical observation, ancient Greek and Roman texts, especially those of Hippocrates and Galen, and local folk traditions is crucial to understanding the humoral approach. It wasn't purely superstition, it was a system built on centuries of accumulated, albeit often misinterpreted, knowledge. The physicians were doing their best with the tools and understanding available to them. Even if their best involved leeches and frog cures, they were trying to be scientific, just with a very different definition of science. The impact on nutrition is profound. With missing teeth, chewing becomes a laborious, often painful, ordeal. You are forced to rely on softer foods, gruel, pottage, finely chopped vegetables, even if more nutritious. Tougher options are available. This further limits an already restricted diet, potentially exacerbating nutritional deficiencies that weaken bones and teeth even more. It's a vicious cycle. Poor diet leads to bad teeth, and bad teeth lead to an even poorer diet. You're essentially stuck in a culinary feedback loop of misery, where every meal is a reminder of your oral shortcomings. The academic debate still exists among dental historians. How much did the lack of effective oral hygiene practices contribute to the widespread tooth decay and loss observed in medieval skeletal remains, versus the impact of diet and other systemic health issues? Was it primarily the absence of brushing, or the nature of their food, that led to such rampant dental problems? It's a complex interplay, and scholars continue to analyze archaeological evidence to pinpoint the primary culprits. Consider the social implications. While missing teeth were common, a severely disfigured mouth could affect your marriage prospects, your ability to secure certain trades, or even your general acceptance in polite society, especially among the wealthier classes. A full set of teeth, even if stained and worn, was a sign of health and vitality. A gaping, infected maw, however, was a mark of misfortune, perhaps even a sign of divine disfavor. You might find yourself shying away from public speaking, or smiling with your lips pressed tightly together, a small, ingrained habit born of self-consciousness. It's hard to charm anyone when your smile looks like a broken fence, and as the pain continues, you might find yourself questioning the efficacy of these humoral treatments. You've purged, you've bled, you've consumed strange concoctions, and still the serpent of pain coils in your jaw. The desperation grows, and with it, a creeping sense of hopelessness. You might begin to wonder if there's any true escape from this agony, or if you are simply destined to endure it until your very last breath. The promise of humoral balance seems increasingly hollow when your tooth feels like it's being hammered by a blacksmith. A common historical fact is that archaeological evidence from medieval burial sites consistently shows high rates of dental disease, including extensive caries cavities, abscesses, and ante-mortem tooth loss teeth lost before death. Skeletons often reveal jaws riddled with infection, bone loss, and evidence of multiple extractions. This physical record provides a grim testament to the widespread nature of dental suffering, far more compelling than any written account. It's like the bones themselves are whispering tales of agony, a silent chorus of medieval screams. The idea of sympathetic remedies extended beyond just temperature. If a toothache was thought to be caused by a dry humor, you might be told to hold something moist in your mouth, like a piece of wet cloth, or even to chew on a specific type of moist wood. The logic was that the moisture would be absorbed, counteracting the dryness. It's a charmingly simple yet ineffective approach to a complex problem. You're basically trying to water a dead plant and expecting it to bloom. One particularly obscure detail is the potential impact of chronic dental pain on mental health. While not explicitly documented in medieval texts, modern understanding suggests that persistent, debilitating pain can lead to chronic stress, anxiety, and even depression. Imagine living with that constant throb, that gnawing discomfort, day in and day out, with no real hope of lasting relief. It's not just a physical burden, it's a psychological one, slowly eroding your spirit and your capacity for joy. You might find yourself more irritable, withdrawn, or simply resigned to your fate, a silent victim of your own aching mouth. It's enough to make anyone want to pull their hair out, let alone their teeth. The concept of bad breath was certainly recognized, but its cause was often attributed to internal imbalances. Remember the humors rather than poor oral hygiene. So, while you might try to sweeten your breath with herbs or spices, the underlying problem of decaying food particles and bacterial buildup would remain. You'd be masking the symptom, not addressing the cause. It's like putting air freshener in a room with a dead animal. It might smell better for a bit, but the problem is still there. Historians still debate the extent to which medieval dental problems contributed to overall mortality rates. While direct deaths from a simple toothache were rare, the complications, severe infections leading to sepsis, malnutrition from inability to eat, or even complications from brutal extractions, undoubtedly shortened lifespans. Was a severe toothache a direct cause of death, or a contributing factor that weakened the body and made it more susceptible to other fatal diseases? The precise impact on medieval demographics remains a complex, unresolved question, shrouded in the mists of time and incomplete records. The impact of these humoral theories on daily life was profound. It shaped not only medical treatments, but also diet, lifestyle, and even social interactions. If you were known to have a melancholic temperament associated with black bile, you might be advised to avoid certain company or activities. Your very being was defined by the balance of these invisible fluids, and your ailments were merely a reflection of their disharmony. It's a world where your personality, your health, and your destiny were all intertwined with the ebb and flow of your internal humors. The economic burden of dental problems, though rarely quantified, was significant. Time lost from work due to agonizing pain, the cost of seeking remedies from physicians, wise women, or barber surgeons, and the reduced productivity due to chronic discomfort all chipped away at the meager resources of medieval families. A toothache wasn't just a personal affliction, it was an economic drain, a silent thief stealing away your livelihood. It's like a tiny, invisible tax on your existence, levied by your own decaying teeth, and there's no tax evasion in the medieval period. So, as you lie in your straw bed, the pain still a dull throb? You reflect on the physician's pronouncements. You've been told to eat more cold foods, to avoid hot emotions, and to apply a poultice of crushed herbs to your cheek. You follow the instructions diligently, hoping that this time, this particular combination of humoral adjustments will finally bring the elusive relief. But deep down, a part of you, a tiny modern voice, whispers that perhaps, just perhaps, there's something more fundamental at play, something that a frog or a bloodletting can't possibly address. But that understanding, my friend, is centuries away. For now, you are left with the humors and the aching maw. Think about the impact on speech. Missing front teeth, in particular, could lead to lisps or difficulty forming certain sounds, making communication a challenge. In a world where oral tradition and face-to-face interaction were paramount, this could be a significant handicap. You might find yourself speaking less or speaking more slowly, carefully articulating each word to avoid embarrassing whistles or slurs. Imagine trying to deliver a rousing speech to a crowd when every S sound makes you sound like a leaky kettle. You might also encounter remedies for bad breath that involve gargling with strange concoctions. Perhaps a mixture of wine and vinegar, or a solution infused with strong-smelling herbs. The burning sensation of the vinegar, the pungent aroma of the herbs. It's a sensory assault. But the hope is that it will temporarily cleanse your mouth and make your breath more palatable. The relief is fleeting, however, as the underlying cause of the odor persists. The common historical fact that medieval medical texts, while discussing various ailments, often dedicated surprisingly little detailed attention to dental care beyond extraction, highlights the low priority given to oral health. It was seen as a problem to be endured or removed, rather than prevented or meticulously repaired. This lack of specialized knowledge meant that dental practices remained stagnant for centuries, a dark corner in the broader landscape of medieval medicine. It's almost as if they thought, if it hurts, pull it, problem solved. Simple yet terrifying. The humors, you realize, have failed you. The purging, the bleeding, the strict dietary regimens, none of it has silenced the relentless throb in your jaw. The physician, with his learned pronouncements and ancient texts, has offered no true solace. So where do you turn when the established medical wisdom falls short? You turn to the whispers, to the old women in the village who know remedies passed down through generations, to the priests who promise divine intervention, and to the sheer, desperate power of superstition. This is the realm of potions, prayers, and painful poultices, where logic often takes a back seat to hope and a fervent belief in the unseen. You might hear a story about a wealthy merchant who, despite his riches, suffered from such chronic tooth pain that he became a recluse, unable to enjoy feasts or engage in social gatherings. His wealth could buy him temporary relief, but never a true cure, highlighting that even privilege couldn't escape the pervasive agony of medieval dental woes. It's a reminder that money couldn't buy happiness, or healthy teeth back then, only slightly less painful suffering. Your first stop might be the local wise woman, her cottage smelling of dried herbs and wood smoke. She listens patiently to your tale of woe, her eyes discerning, perhaps a little knowing. She doesn't speak of humors, but of spirits, of curses, or simply of bad luck. She might tell you that a toothache is caused by a malevolent spirit nesting in your jaw, or by a witch's curse. The remedies she offers are less about internal balance, and more about external expulsion or magical protection. The intergenerational impact is also chilling. Children would observe their parents and grandparents suffering from dental problems, growing up with the grim expectation that they too would face similar agonies. The knowledge of remedies, however ineffective, would be passed down, perpetuating a cycle of pain and crude fixes. There was no hope of a brighter dental future, only the inevitability of decay and loss. A grim inheritance passed down through generations. The common historical fact that toothpicks were used in various forms throughout the medieval period is a small glimmer of practical oral care. These were often made from wood, bone, or even metal, and were used to dislodge larger food particles from between teeth. While certainly helpful for immediate relief, they did little to address the microscopic world of plaque and bacteria that caused long-term decay. You might carry a small, carved toothpick with you, a practical tool in a world of limited options. The academic debate still explores the psychological resilience of medieval people in the face of such pervasive pain. Did their strong religious beliefs, which often viewed suffering as a path to spiritual purification, help them cope with chronic agony? Or did the sheer ubiquity of pain simply normalize it, making it an accepted part of the human condition, rather than something to be actively combated? It's a fascinating look into the human psyche under extreme duress, trying to understand how they simply kept going. She might hand you a small, intricately carved amulet, perhaps made of bone or wood, instructing you to wear it around your neck or to press it against the aching tooth. The amulet, she explains, will ward off evil spirits or absorb the pain. You feel the rough texture of the charm against your skin, a faint hope stirring within you. It's not a scientific cure, but in a world where science is rudimentary, faith often fills the void. It's like trying to fix a broken engine with a lucky rabbit's foot. You know it probably won't work. But hey, what's the harm in trying? The very landscape of medieval art and literature, while not explicitly dental, often reflects the realities of life and death, sickness and health. While perfect smiles are rare in depictions of common folk, the absence of dental care is an unspoken truth woven into the fabric of their existence. You see it in the slightly downturned mouths, the subtle lines of pain around the eyes, the way a hand might instinctively rise to cover a mouth when laughing, a quiet acknowledgement of a universal affliction. Then there are the potions. Concoctions far removed from the physician's elaborate elixirs. These are simpler, often made from readily available ingredients, but no less bizarre. She might instruct you to gather specific herbs at a particular phase of the moon, to grind them into a powder, and to mix them with something truly unappetizing. Perhaps it's a paste made from earthworms, or a liquid infused with the urine of a specific animal. You wince at the thought, but the pain is a powerful persuader. You dutifully follow her instructions, holding your breath as you swallow the foul-tasting liquid or apply the slimy paste to your gum. The taste is revolting, the smell nauseating, but the desperate hope for relief overrides your senses. The smell of medieval society, a blend of unwashed bodies, animal waste, and general grime, would have been overwhelming. And within that olfactory assault, the distinct aroma of unbrushed, decaying teeth would have been a common, if unpleasant, component. You'd simply grow accustomed to it. A constant background hum of human existence, a symphony of smells that would make your modern nose recoil. The social implications of poor oral hygiene were subtle but present. While bad breath and missing teeth were common, those with particularly foul mouths might be subtly avoided in close quarters. Personal interactions, especially those involving intimacy or formal settings, would be affected. You might find yourself unconsciously keeping a greater distance from others, or speaking with your hand partially covering your mouth, a small, ingrained habit born of self-consciousness. The common historical fact that the average lifespan in the medieval period was significantly shorter than today. And while many factors contributed to this, chronic infection stemming from dental problems undoubtedly played a role. A severe tooth abscess, left untreated, could easily lead to a systemic infection that claimed a life. Dental pain wasn't just discomfort, it was a potential death sentence, a ticking time bomb in your own mouth. A common historical fact is the widespread belief in the medieval period that toothaches could be cured by applying various animal-derived substances directly to the affected area. Think about it if the problem is a toothworm. Perhaps something from the natural world, something alive or recently living, could counteract it. You might be advised to apply a poultice made from the brains of a hare, or the crushed body of a beetle, directly to your aching tooth. The idea was that the properties of the animal, whether its swiftness or its tenacity, would somehow be transferred to your tooth, driving out the pain. The smell alone is enough to make you gag, but the desperation for relief is a powerful motivator. It's a bit like trying to fix a flat tire with a dead squirrel. You're using organic material, but it's not quite the right tool for the job. As you reflect on this journey through medieval dental agony, you realize the profound difference that modern dentistry has made. The simple act of brushing your teeth, the availability of pain relief, the miracle of fillings and root canals. These are not just conveniences, they are fundamental improvements in human well-being that were unimaginable for centuries. The medieval world, with its horrible methods, its desperate remedies, and its pervasive pain serves as a stark reminder of how far we've come. It's enough to make you hug your toothbrush. One particularly obscure detail involves the practice of transferring the toothache to an animal or a tree. This was a form of sympathetic magic, where the pain was believed to be a tangible entity that could be moved. You might be instructed to chew on a piece of wood, then bury it, believing the pain would be transferred to the earth. Or, more disturbingly, you might be told to bite a dog or a cat, hoping the animal would absorb your suffering. The thought of inflicting pain on an innocent creature just to alleviate your own is horrifying. But in the depths of medieval agony, desperate minds conceived of desperate measures. It's a chilling reminder of the lengths to which people would go when faced with unrelenting pain and a complete lack of effective medical knowledge. The development of specialized dental tools, the understanding of germ theory, the advent of anesthesia. These were not sudden breakthroughs, but gradual accumulations of knowledge and innovation, each step building upon the last. The transition from the barber surgeon's crude pliers to the precision instruments of modern dentistry represents a monumental leap in human comfort and health. It's a testament to human ingenuity, a slow, painful climb out of the darkness of ignorance. And what about the tools beyond the crude twig or cloth? There were no specialized instruments for cleaning teeth, no dental floss, no interdental brushes, no electric toothbrushes with their sonic vibrations. The sheer lack of effective tools meant that even the most diligent individual would struggle to maintain anything resembling modern oral health. You're fighting a losing battle with your bare hands, or at best, a rough stick. One particularly obscure detail is the role of monasteries and religious orders in preserving and transmitting what little medical knowledge existed, including some rudimentary dental practices. While not always effective, these institutions often served as centers of learning and healing, where ancient texts were copied and practical remedies were tested. They were the flickering candles in a vast darkness, keeping the flame of medical inquiry alive, however dimly. The academic debate still exists among folklorists and medical historians. To what extent were these folk remedies genuinely believed to be effective? Or were they primarily psychological placebos, offering comfort and a sense of agency in a world where true cures were unknown? Did the wise women and village healers truly believe in the toothworm and sympathetic magic? Or were they simply providing what comfort they could, knowing the limitations of their knowledge? It's a nuanced discussion, exploring the complex interplay between belief, healing, and human psychology in an age shrouded in mystery. Historians still debate whether the relative lack of dental innovation in the medieval period was due to a societal acceptance of pain as inevitable, or simply the overwhelming challenges of other even more life-threatening diseases like plague and famine, which overshadowed the importance of oral health. Was it a matter of priorities, or a fundamental resignation to a painful reality? The answer likely lies in a complex interplay of both, where daily survival often trumped long-term comfort. Prayers, of course, are a constant companion in this world of suffering. You might visit the local church, kneeling before a statue of a saint known for healing. Perhaps Saint Apollonia, the patron saint of dentistry, who, legend has it, had her teeth pulled out during persecution. You light a candle, your lips moving in silent supplication, begging for divine intervention, for the pain to simply cease. The cool, damp air of the church, the flickering candlelight, and the scent of old incense offer a momentary sense of peace, a brief respite from the relentless throb. You hope that your piety, your fervent prayers, will be enough to move the heavens and grant you relief. The very concept of a dentist as a specialized medical professional is a relatively modern invention, emerging centuries after the medieval period. For most of history, dental care was a sideline, a grim necessity performed by general practitioners or skilled tradesmen. This lack of specialization further hampered progress, as no single group was solely dedicated to understanding and improving oral health. The academic debate still ponders the extent to which medieval people were aware of the link between oral hygiene and tooth decay. Did they understand that cleaning their teeth could prevent problems? Or was it simply a matter of removing immediate discomfort and bad odors? The evidence suggests a limited understanding of the long-term benefits of preventative care, focusing more on immediate relief than on lasting solutions. You might hear a story about a medieval saint whose relics were believed to cure toothaches, attracting pilgrims from far and wide. While these were acts of faith rather than medicine, they highlight the deep human need for relief and the willingness to seek it from any source, whether scientific or spiritual. It's a reminder that hope, however misplaced, can be a powerful balm. Beyond formal prayers, there are also incantations and charms, often whispered in secret, passed down from person to person. These might be rhyming verses, ancient words believed to hold magical power, or even simple phrases repeated over and over. You might be told to recite a specific incantation 3 times before bed, or to write a charm on a piece of parchment and bury it under a certain tree. The power of words, the belief in their mystical properties, is a potent force in this pre-scientific age. You might feel a fool whispering these strange words to the night air, but the pain is a powerful motivator, driving you to try anything, however improbable. The lasting legacy of medieval dentistry is not just the pain it inflicted, but the profound appreciation it instills in us for the advancements we now take for granted. Every time you brush your teeth, every time you visit a dentist for a routine checkup, you are benefiting from centuries of struggle, innovation, and the tireless pursuit of a better, less painful existence. It's a quiet victory, a triumph over a pervasive, ancient torment. Poultices, those soft, moist masses applied to the body, are a staple of medieval home remedies. But these aren't just soothing herbal compresses. Oh no, the ingredients can be truly shocking. You might be instructed to gather pigeon droppings, mix them with vinegar, and apply the foul-smelling paste to your cheek. The logic, however twisted, is that the acidity of the vinegar combined with the drawing properties of the dung will pull the inflammation and pain from your tooth. The stench is almost as unbearable as the pain, but you grit your teeth and endure it, hoping against hope. It's like trying to make a gourmet meal out of dirt and twigs. You're using natural ingredients, but the result is, questionable. The very air you breathe, free from the pervasive stench of infection and decay that hung over medieval towns, is a subtle reminder of progress. The ability to eat a wide variety of foods without fear of searing pain, to speak clearly, to smile without self-consciousness. These are freedoms that medieval people could only dream of. You might hear a story about a particularly fastidious noble who, in an attempt to maintain his teeth, would have his servants rub his teeth with a mixture of crushed coral and pumice. While this might have provided some abrasive cleaning, it would also have been incredibly damaging to the enamel, leading to further sensitivity and wear over time. It's like trying to sandblast your teeth clean. You might get them white, but you won't have them for long. As the story draws to a close, and the images of medieval suffering begin to fade, you can almost feel the quiet hum of your own healthy teeth, a gentle, reassuring presence in your mouth. It's a small thing, perhaps, but a profound one. A testament to the journey we've taken through the dark ages of dental care. And now, as the tale of the medieval man's horrific attempts to cure his teeth comes to a close, let the images of pain and despair fade into the darkness. Take a deep breath and feel the peace of your room, the softness of your bed, and the absence of pain. Your teeth, healthy and painless, are a priceless gift our ancestors could only dream of. Let that gratitude lull you to sleep, a deep and peaceful sleep, undisturbed by imaginary cavities or cruel extraction instruments. All the pain is gone. All the fear is gone. Only silence and peace remain. Good night. Another common poultice ingredient was human urine, believed to have antiseptic properties, or at least to be readily available. You might be told to soak a cloth in fresh urine and apply it to your gums. The warmth, the slight sting, and the utterly repulsive smell are all part of the experience. It's a stark reminder of the desperate measures people resorted to, and the lack of understanding about true sanitation and infection control. You can almost taste the bitterness on your tongue, even just thinking about it.